Hey, what's up guys? My name is Carl Freund, CEO and designated broker for Kenneth James Realty. And today, November 19th of 2020, something very, very fundamentally interesting has happened in the real estate industry. The Department of Justice actually wound up suing the National Association of Realtors. And so understanding what a realtor is, because I think they have blurred the lines very, very much. And please, by the way, understand that a realtor is a registered trademark. Don't sue my ass, NAR, please. I am a member, and so understand what a realtor actually is. A realtor just means that you belong to a professional organization. The National Association of Realtors has no governing body effect at all other than its actual members, and maybe they can have some administrative action over a member or be able to discipline a member. But as far as a state licensing or a national licensing, there is no national license in the United States to practice real estate. They are done on a very specific state level, and not even a local level, but a state level. So I am a licensed broker in the states of Arizona, Colorado, and Florida. So the Arizona Real Estate Commission, Colorado Real Estate Commission, and Florida Real Estate Commission hold my license. The National Association of Realtors is a completely separate organization that I belong to, so that I can have access to things like, the MLS, which is a big part of why we are actually realtors. We have to get MLS access in order to be competitive. And that is one of the things that this lawsuit alleges that we can't do if we're not realtors. I would tend to agree with this. I am a licensed broker in Arizona. In Arizona, you have to be a realtor in order to get access to the MLS. Unless you're a vendor like an appraiser or a home inspector or something like that. I think they give you some different access like that, but not as a selling agent can you have access unless you are a realtor. The Department of Justice is focused on this very particular activity. In the state of Colorado, it is substantially different. In the state of Colorado, I can be a non-realtor and get access to RE Colorado, which is the larger MLS inside of Colorado. So there is that distinction there where you're a realtor or a member. And so you can be a realtor member of the MLS or just a member of the MLS. And you don't need to be a realtor in the state of Colorado. Now, it varies state to state and it varies locale to locale. But the NAR has a very, very far-reaching effect. The NAR generally owns all of these MLSs. Independent, small little MLSs are owned by the Area Association of Realtors, which is owned by the State Association of Realtors, which is then governed by the National Association of Realtors. So there are very, very four distinct points that this lawsuit is pointing to. Let me explain. The first one is prohibiting MLSs which are affiliated with NAR, which by the way is like 99.9% of them. So let me go back to this. Prohibiting MLSs which are affiliated with NAR from disclosing potential customers the fee that the client dealer, which is the real estate agent, will earn if a purchaser purchases a house listed on a number of items, like an MLS is basically what that says. Okay, so what it's saying is that the NAR is not really disclosing a consumer's or a real estate agent's fees. The fee that is charged to a consumer on the other end. In real estate is very, very interesting because generally, and I'm making very big, broad generalizations, so please don't sue me. I'm not a lawyer. Please don't sue me on this. I'm making very broad generalizations that generally the seller is going to pay both sides of the commission. This is a carryover from a long time ago when you had basically one side of the transaction being represented. You had a listing agent, a listing agent that would represent both sides. And you had things called sub-agents back in the day where the sub-agent was actually an agent for the seller as well, even though they brought the buyer to it. It's an antiquated system. We've done largely away with that system, and we've gone to a buyer-broker system where we have a very big distinction, and that's why we do the disclosure of agency relationships up front now. That didn't used to happen. That was something that's happened really since the 1980s. And so before the 1980s, it was only the seller that was generally represented by the agent. And so the buyer was generally unrepresented, right? And so what's happened over the years is that this system has evolved. Now, imagine going into a Wendy's or a McDonald's and ordering something off the menu, and notice that in a lot of states, they have to disclose now how many calories there are in that Big Mac or that Whopper or that bacon cheeseburger, whatever it is, because of the state regulators came in and said, hey, wait a minute, the consumer should know what they're consuming. The same thing is kind of happening here with commissions. And so you can walk into a house as a buyer and not understand that the seller is compensating the buyer's broker, or agent in a lot of cases, X amount of dollars. It could be a percentage, it could be a flat fee. We don't know what that is. And so the NAR is being accused of not disclosing that information to a consumer when it could actually impact the final sales price. Understanding that commissions are always negotiable. Hint, hint, for those consumers that are watching. Honestly, I'm going to give you a secret. Real estate agent commissions are always negotiable. Doesn't matter what side you're on. So keep that in mind. The NAR is being alleged to not disclose that. Number two, permitting purchaser brokers or buyer brokers to misrepresent to consumers that a purchaser's dealers, companies are free. What that means, it's just a weird way of saying, hey, and we've advertised it here, and it can be misleading. I'll be 100% transparent. When somebody goes out and says, my services are free, they're paid for by the seller. So is that built into the price? You have to ask yourself the question, is that actual compensation for the buyer's broker built into the price of the home? The DOJ is alleging that it is, and that the NAR is not disclosing that, or realtors, or maybe just real estate agents on a whole, are misrepresenting that it is free, okay, and that the sellers, pay for it. So it's kind of a gray line here. Enabling a purchaser's broker to filter MLS listings primarily based on the extent of the purchaser dealer commission supplied, and to exclude properties with decreased commissions from consideration from potential home buyers. Let me work into the MLS for you. I'm going to show you a live MLS feed, and this is something that I don't know if I should be doing, but I'm going to do it anyways for the interest of the consumer, how you can actually get around some systems here. Let's do an example. Let it say, let me show you a couple different rules. In order to list a property in MLS, you have to offer some sort of compensation. It could be $1, or it could be a percentage, or it could be a flat fee. And there's no standard, right? Look, we're very good about the antitrust part of this. We don't require a certain commission. All commissions are negotiable. What the buyer's brokerage compensation is determined by the seller's agent generally, and it is put on the listing contract. So for example, if it is a percentage, some of that percentage can go to the buyer brokerage and some of the percentage can go to the seller brokerage. It doesn't need to be 50-50. More compensation can go to the seller's brokerage, which is generally the case when it's a seller's market. More compensation can go to the buyer brokerage, which is generally the case when it's more of a buyer's market. And so you can attract, unfortunately, you can attract buyers, or at least buyer's agents, by increasing commissions and offering a financial incentive to show certain properties over other properties. Let me show you the exact example of how this works. So I'm going to go into live feed of the MLS. I'm going to go down here to compensation to buyer broker. I'm going to put in a minimum. I'm going to put in a minimum of 3, and I'm going to see what results come up. 7,808. I'm going to increase that and say I want 4%. I'm going to type in 4 and see what comes up. 352. So there is a propensity for agents to be able to go into the MLS and say, I only want to show properties that have a 4% or better commission. And there's the list. This is the exact list. This is live as of November 19th, 2020. And so if I look in here in South Rita Lane in Tempe, Arizona, oh, that's a buyer brokerage of $1,000. It's a flat fee. You can sort by this, right? So you have to understand that it's different. It is different based on the property that you can show. That is a very, very important distinction to make. And so when you're a buyer, you may not be getting shown all of the homes that may fit your search criteria because some unscrupulous agents may go in there and actually sort, and we have the ability to do that inside the MLS. We may sort by commissions paid. That is not fair, and I would agree that that is not fair. Last thing, limiting entry to those lockboxes that represent or present licensed brokers with entry to properties on the market to brokers who work for NAR affiliated MLSs. Let me show you a little something here. And so we have lockboxes here that are electronic lockboxes. It's called Supra, and you have to have an application on your phone in order to get access to one of the lockboxes. So you actually have to subscribe to this particular app. This is the only app that works. It is only offered through my MLSs. This is part of multiple MLSs that I have. The only way to get this is if you're a member of the Association of Realtors locally. That's the only way I can access lockboxes. What the DOJ is now alleging is that if you aren't a member of the Organization of Realtors or a realtor member, that you won't have access to the application that will allow you access to the lockbox, which is the widely used access to homes. And so it's saying that if you aren't a realtor, and you don't need to be a realtor to be licensed, if you're not a realtor, then you don't have access to the homes. That is very, very true. And so I think that the DOJ has got some teeth to this thing. I think that the industry as a whole, when it shifts in the direction of helping the consumer, is better for the industry. I do think a lot of realtors are going to fight back. I think that they're going to think that it's not fair, that it's our last kind of stand as far as the data that we own. I'm going to allege that it's going to be quite different. I think that competition is healthy for not only the industry, but for the consumer as a whole. And so please keep aware. That is the overview of this particular lawsuit. I'm very interested in how this plays out, because basically they offered a compensation plan, or basically a settlement agreement inside of this alleged lawsuit. They filed the settlement agreement at the same time they filed the lawsuit. And so I think NAR is going to have to really address some of these fundamental problems very, very quickly. That is it for today. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. Please take 2 seconds to like and subscribe. That would mean the world to me. And I will see you very, very soon. Thanks. Take care.